Right, guys, and we are live here. We are talking Ehang, big news, and we have just had the response in from Ehang Holdings. So we are going to go through that, guys, with you here live. I think it's super important. I mean, you probably watched my summary of this Wolfpack short attack, and there are quite a lot of things in there really that were allegations, big allegations, concerning allegations. One was this related party deal. Then they're claiming they have a very low collection rate. They're saying the PR is fake, and a lot of allegations that they visited empty factories. They found a NASA guy who was basically saying the technology is no good. And then there's this court case which allegedly has Ehang Guangzhou, which apparently owns most of Ehang's assets, equity frozen. So quite a lot of big allegations. And we have the reply here from Ehang CEO just put out on the investor relations part of their website, guys. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to try and make myself small enough so you can also see it. So I'm just moving myself in the corner here, guys. So I think let's go through this, and then we're going to discuss a little bit. Does this really address the allegations there? Darius, good morning to Poland. It's a lovely evening here in Hong Kong. Thanks for joining in, guys. So this is the statement out in writing. They did this rather quickly, I must say. Quite often when you get these, we saw yesterday a very brief sort of rebuttal. It basically just said there are inaccuracies in there, but it didn't go into any specifics. So here we have specifics. Here's Mr. Hu. When did you start? Why did you start Ehang? What's Ehang's mission? I founded Mr. Hu to make air mobility accessible for ordinary people. We envision that in the foreseeable future, fast, efficient, and door-to-door public air transportation within and between all cities become a reality. We work hard every day striving to realize this dream. So I think the interesting part here is making it accessible for ordinary people. That might be a response to that, their products are a little bit on the affordable size. Emma here, one of our first mum members, welcome. Tiger Lady and friends liked. Yes, do hit that like button, guys. I also donate 1 cent to the Gentle Barn sanctuaries, animal sanctuaries, for every single like, of course, also for our lives here. Now, question 2, according to the short sale report, many of Ehang's competitors did not jump straight into autonomous platform without first paving the concept with a human pilot in the aircraft. And I think that was a big one here. Why hasn't Ehang tried to commercialize piloted AAVs as a first step? And you might remember in that short report, the NASA guy was basically used to make the allegations that he said, we are not going to get to autonomous drone flying at all with passenger in it. That's not going to happen for years and years and years. Of course, there will be pilots in them. So what these guys are doing is a load of nonsense. And all the serious players are building essentially electric helicopters. I mean, now that's really what they are. Then they're not drones, are they? And so that's here, the reply. We believe that efficient urban air transport should not require every customer to acquire a pilot license. It's neither practical nor safe. Autonomous vehicles are safer and more efficient for urban transportations if we have an intelligent command and control center to manage all vehicles. Therefore, Ehang did not set out to make a lighter version of helicopters. In fact, our first passenger-grade model unveiled in January 2016, the Ehang 184, was fully autonomous. We firmly believe autonomous vehicles are the key to bringing air mobility to the mass population. So he's basically saying, guys, we are just ahead of you. You might have, people like Boeing building small electric helicopters, but we have been doing this since 2016. Polly here, congrats on hitting 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. That was such a wonderful thing that happened yesterday. We hit 10,000. Really exciting. Good boy here. Also welcome. PP, good morning to you too. Lovely to have 2 of our original member crew on here, Emma and Polly. Thanks for your support, guys. Why is Ehang developing a comprehensive AAV platform? Why doesn't Ehang just outsource that infrastructure, such as command and control, to third parties? The short sellers appear to think it's a better idea. The short seller claimed that to get a network in place for certificates would cost $5 to $10 billion. Yeah, I was also raising my eyebrows on that one. They're basically, I think it's a little bit the NASA thinking. Everything at NASA costs 10 times what it costs in the real world. Now, as mentioned earlier here, his reply is, Ehang's strategy is to make autonomous vehicles that are suitable for urban transport. By design, autonomous vehicles must be operated by command and control centers. In fact, command and control centers, takeoff and landing facilities, and charging equipment are a crucial part of our point-to-point solution. Equally important is our core competence. Our team has extensive experience in designing large-scale command and control systems. We believe we have a deep understanding of those systems. Nevertheless, they do not entail huge amounts of monetary investments by ourselves. On the contrary, they're part of our technological solution and are a revenue generator for Ehang. So that's kind of interesting. So he doesn't say this is just sort of capex thrown at a problem, which is what Wolfpack was alleging there. Pepe is saying, you're very lucky you didn't buy in this before on Ehang. Yeah, I've been talking about it. I missed this in December, buying in on it, and I was kicking myself on it, kicking myself a little bit less since last night. But the stock, guys, look at what's happening here, up 37% so far since the market opened. So that sell-off, obviously, people think it was overdone. Now, what are Ehang's core tech strengths? And I think that's interesting to know, but basically Wolfpack sort of alleged that there aren't any. Now here Mr. Hu says, as early as 27, we led the global AAV industry in completing the development and testing of full redundancy systems. Moreover, we have proprietary completed the development of core tech, including amongst others, high performance propulsion systems, two-way communication detectable senseless motor driver, the multi-redundancy automatic flight control system. These are long names, aren't they? High performance self-adaptive flight control algorithm, the single node controller, okay, a bunch of systems, battery systems, more redundancy systems. Why is redundancy important and why do they have so many rotors? Well, I think really the theory is, with a plane, you've got 2 engines, right? Maybe 4. So these guys have lots of them. I imagine the whole point is sort of some of them fail, you're not going to drop out of the sky. So redundancy, of course, is a huge thing. We're seeing that with EVs also, right? I mean, why is LiDAR really going to come? And I know Tesla disagrees with it, but it's going to come just for redundancy purposes only, if nothing else. So our core technologies sound complicated. They're centered on 3 most important principles: safety, autonomous control, and eco-friendliness. Okay, I guess what eco-friendly means the batteries. We've acquired a large number of patents related to autonomous aerial vehicles. The total number of patents applied for amounts to 343. Now, I did a video a while back on patents, and one of our lovely members, a chap called Robert, who at one point was the head of the US Bar Association, and I'm not saying what he gave was legal advice, but he was basically saying the number of patents isn't really particularly important. It's really the quality, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. Let's get through the rest of this information. He says, we are a leader in autonomous aerial vehicles globally. Especially, we have developed a comprehensive team of core in-house experts and engineers. We've been the company for many years. We value deeply as our biggest asset. So he's saying our assets are our people rather than sort of physical stuff. Guys here, thank you all for being excited about 10K subscribers. Jimmy here, that's fantastic. Joshua started his short position to get in on this. That's also fantastic. Cover NEO, please, Jeffrey. I have a NEO video coming out shortly. It's late in Hong Kong. It is Charles, but nevertheless, this is important, guys. Let's get through. Yeah, question 5. The short seller questioned why Ehang was able to make even bigger achievements with much smaller investments than its global peers. They said that some firms were nowhere close to commercializing AAVs after investing $500 million US in 1 year. That's a good question. We focused on AAV R&D since 2014. We've gained financial backing from leading global VCs, and since 2017, we have made approximately $37 million US in investment in R&D. We appreciate the trust of our investors. We do not have a culture of burning money for white elephant money pit projects, right? Every penny counts. We've relied on a group of dedicated engineers with diligence, intelligence, and persistence. This is who we are. The achievement also proves that our development strategies pursuing AAVs, not manned air vehicles, has been correct. Money is not everything, and he means here in terms of spend. As an engineer by training, I'm very proud of our achievements at such a low cost. Only snobs will overestimate the power of money, but underestimate the power of will of self-devoting engineers. Going forward, as we are a listed company with better access to capital markets, we plan to more aggressively invest in R&D to strengthen our technology leaderships in the AAV industry. Okay, so he's basically saying, guys, we're just doing this on a shoestring, and we can because we have smart people. We don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions and burn money, essentially. Right. Question 6. How does Ehang manage its production quality? So again, the NASA chap there, and I didn't look up who he was. He had a PhD in something or other, but I didn't check out his background. There was quite enough allegations in that report to start checking out the people they were questioning. But so he was basically saying that the parts that he had inspected in EH216, you said he was working for Uber at one point or consulting, and he'd inspected EH216 and said that the components were of sort of rough quality and that the engines were hobby quality and not suitable. He said these are not aerospace parts. Now, as you know, Ehang's AAVs are intended for passenger transportation. The short seller reported cited an expert who allegedly had a long career at NASA to claim Ehang used hobby-grade motors, so here it is, by a Chinese hobby motor company, T-Motor, to manufacture the EH216. It's absolutely wrong to allege that we use any motors or propellers made by T-Motor in our T16. Okay, that's pretty strong stuff here. The ad expert must not have checked our EH216 in person. Starting from our first generation passenger grade model, the EH184, we've used motors that are proprietarily designed and manufactured. Hang on, these are proprietarily designed and manufactured by our designated supplier. Okay, so they're saying we don't make them. They are made by our supplier, but the supplier is not T-Motor. And as early as 2015, we had established a variety of dynamic testing systems to conduct a large number of tests on proprietary designed motors. Regarding the motor product made by T-Motor that we allegedly used, we believe T-Motor only started to sell that product after we have conducted a large number of trial flights of EH216. The T-Motor motors are significantly different from our motor products in both technical performance and physical appearance. We've established rigorous processes. Each AAV must go through strict quality control. I'm sort of wondering here, is what he's saying is that the external supplier is possibly related to T-Motor, but that the EH216 motor came first and that perhaps that supplier has a sort of consumer division and is making a sort of B version of the motor the EH216 is using. I am speculating here, but it sounds a little bit like that. And perhaps that's why that design looks a little similar. Now, tell us about the trial flights. So the allegations there were basically that Ehang had exaggerated their trial flights to claim that they were passenger grade flights and that they had somehow had permits to fly around various airspaces in Europe, the US and Canada, etc. Can you please tell us about your own experiences of riding an EH216? How many rides have you taken? Of course, I'm the first passenger of our EAV and I'm still a regular flyer. Nothing will make me more joyful than riding on an EH216 to look down at the beautiful landscape. We've taken over 10,000 trial flights since 2017 in 41 cities and 8 countries. We've passed rigorous tests with empty loads, cargo loads, passenger loads. Many people have experienced the flights in our AAVs, including, I think, the Volkswagen COO of China, or was it the CEO? I can't remember, of China, because we saw that rumor the other day if you were watching my video. And if you weren't, guys, subscribe. That's how you get the information. And as always, guys, of course, this is not financial advice. I'm just here entertaining as always. Now, can you elaborate more on regulatory approvals? How long do you think it'll take for the urban air mobility dream to come true? So the allegation was there that they don't have regulatory approvals, that they've exaggerated their regulatory approvals, and that any approvals they have are certainly not for passengers. That was what Wolfpack was saying. So far we've worked closely with the CAAC on airworthiness certification of our EH216. We've been invited by authorities from various countries for similar certification. We believe our product is best in class. We will proactively cooperate with the authorities and most rigorous tests. We intend to launch more regular flights in more countries. While there remains a long way to go, I believe we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. Now, all the media coverage in China for the last couple of months has been that this drone law we got in place here in China from the 1st of January, which is for parcels of up to 5 kg, so it's not for people, that it was Ehang and JD who were basically co-writing that together with the Chinese authorities. That's what the Chinese news coverage was. Now, I don't know if that's true. I didn't ask the Chinese ministry, but that's what the rumors were on that. Do you have any other comments on the short seller report? Right, this is interesting. Because he talks here about contracts, production facilities, and some of the stuff that I thought were actually most concerning. I wasn't that concerned about the PR stuff. For me, it was more these contracts and things. So let's see what he says. Many investors believe in Ehang's mission and tech advancement, while others have doubts. This is normal, and we need to do a better job to help more investors understand our business. Short selling reports are tools used by certain profit seekers on the capital markets. I get that. Okay, he's sort of accepting it. We all have to accept it. We may or may not like it. But this short seller did not attempt to understand Ehang's technology and business model. Its report was based on shoddy research and contains numerous errors, unsubstantiated statements, and misinterpretations of information. In addition to the issues I've directly addressed earlier, we have the following responses to some other false allegations made by the short seller. Okay, I think this is actually the juicy stuff, guys. It requires a sip of water. Contracts with Kungxiang. So the short seller falsely accused that Kungxiang, a customer of Ehang, is also a shareholder of Ehang and signed sham sales contracts to benefit its investment. The truth is that Kungxiang has never been a shareholder of Ehang prior to our IPO, and to the best of our knowledge, after our IPO either. Okay, that is a big statement, because that was really the crux of that report, that Kungxiang is a customer and that they were a shareholder prior to the IPO, and they manufactured contracts, sham contracts, to benefit from the IPO and the subsequent share price increase. He's saying they've never been a shareholder, and to his knowledge, I mean, they could of course bought shares today, but he doesn't think that they are. The pricing and other items offered by Ehang to Kungxiang are not substantially different from those offered to other major customers in China. In all contracts with Kungxiang are based on arm's length transactions. So he's saying these are not arm length transactions. It doesn't mean, length of your arm. It just means these are not related party transactions. So they're dealing with them as they would with any other customer. Now, production facilities, here we go. The short seller falsely accused that Ehang's headquarters or manufacturing facility was practically empty during their alleged visits. The truth is that Ehang's existing Guangzhou manufacturing base spans a total area of 8,750 square meters and houses production facilities for our AAVs. We're building a new factory in Yunfu, Guangdong, with a planned initial capacity of 600 units of passenger-grade AAVs per year. Our security camera did capture that a man disguised as a delivery person trespassed on one of our facilities around the time indicated by the short seller, but their photos and where they shot them are intentionally misleading. We receive regular business and regulator visits frequently to our facilities, and all interest parties are invited to visit us once international travels are allowed. Okay, so he's saying you can come and see us. Now, if you have been to factories, there are typically floors or areas or rooms that are indeed empty. I mean, you can take pictures that make it look good, and you can take pictures that make it look bad. I'm not saying one side is correct here or the other, but that is you can present facts in different manners, right? You can take a picture of that corner or of that corner, and this corner might look shabby and that corner might look exciting. So anyway, he's basically saying people are welcome to visit. It'd be lovely if somebody, I would love to visit, but Hong Kong is still cut off from mainland China here due to COVID. We're not allowed to cross that border. It would be lovely to get somebody in Guangdong to actually go and see them and take a video rather than a sort of picture, because that's a little bit harder to manufacture. Ehang's Guangzhou, the short seller falsely accused that the equity interest of Guangzhou Ehang intelligent tech company, that's Ehang Guangzhou, likely, and I also, if you look at that report, if you count the number of times that they said might, could, and likely and that sort of thing, there are quite a few of them, had been frozen by Chinese court due to debts of Ehang Guangzhou. The truth is that Ehang Guangzhou is not a defendant to the underlying proceedings at all, as the short seller admitted itself in the screenshot it presented. Right? The legal proceeding cited by the short seller involves an arbitration proceeding among Ehang's pre-IPO shareholders and has nothing to do with the 40 million RMB redeemable non-controlling interest on our balance sheet, and is not expected to have any material adverse impact on Ehang's business as a result of operations. Okay, that is a pretty good explanation. What he's saying is that the guys who were Ehang shareholders pre-IPO are somehow in a legal tangle amongst each other, and they are in arbitration, and therefore their shares have been frozen. So it could be that there was a group of investors who jointly invested into Ehang in terms of in private equity before it was listed, and now they are squabbling over who should get what shares, and they're worried that some people will sell their shares off, and therefore that these are frozen. I mean, I'm speculating a little bit further from what he's saying here, but that's sort of how my mind interprets this. He says, Ehang is committed to maintaining the highest standards of corporate governance as well as transparent and timely disclosure with the applicable rules of the SEC and the Nasdaq market, and it remains focused here. And then we have about in the safe harbor statement. So guys, what do you make of this? Well, the stock market seems to like it, which is kind of interesting. Although this report came out approximately an hour ago and it's now 10. So it came out actually after the market had already rallied. So the market isn't really responding to this statement. Maybe they haven't read it yet. What we can have another quick look here if, let me just refresh up, if Google News has any more news. 29 minutes ago, CNN has got it. Let's see if they picked that up or if they're just writing yesterday's news. Yahoo Finance certainly picked it up. They were pretty early to the party. In a statement Tuesday, okay, but they haven't, because that's kind of one of the big problems I have with coverage of Chinese stocks is that the news is so late, and often when it's good, it just doesn't get picked up. So yeah, see, these guys have, CNN has just put this out on the 17th of February at, well, they certainly didn't cover that, what we're looking at here, even though it says 29 minutes ago. It certainly isn't 29 minutes ago in terms of information here. Desmond Chan, another one of our members. Wonderful to have you on the chat as always, Desmond. And thank you very much for your early support here and on the 10K. Guys, let me see if there are any questions in here. If you have questions, guys, post them in the chat and I'll certainly get to them. Neo follows Tesla. Yes, I agree with that. This forces me to join, go to bed. That's funny. I don't like these shorters. Ehang bought me here. Great channel. Thank you very much. Do hit the subscribe button. We managed to crash that 10K subscriber mark yesterday after only about 8 weeks or so here on YouTube. So it's been really, really fun. And I'm bullish on Ehang. Only concern for me is that the China-US relations, but I hope they play nice. But I think we are seeing an improvement there. Marius, very good to have you on the chat here. What's up with Neo? Okay, maybe at the end of this we will do a quick peek over at Neo. Lloyd here. Thank you very much for your comment. You know what I didn't buy? What I did buy today actually is a Palantir. But I didn't buy Ehang. I was going to wait for this morning and then I got distracted with Palantir and here we are and we're back up 34%. So people who bought the dip yesterday, good on you. You are braver than I was at the time. Keep the shares, buy the dip, says WH. What happened to the Neo stock? Okay. We're in the same boat, says, yeah, just sign up for your Patreon, Desmond. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, we have just also launched a Discord server, guys. If you head over to our Patreon, the link's below, you can also join that. And I think that will be a really, really good one because obviously news is 24/7. Some of you sleep at different times than us, and you know, we can all sort of exchange thoughts on there, and also on the Patreon. There are often things, little bits of news out that I'd like to share and thoughts I have, but I can't make it into a video because I can't cover everything. For example, if you're talking about Neo, Deutsche Bank bought more than 1 million shares of that yesterday. A little bit of news, but it's not really worth making a 1-minute video on it. So you know, I'm going to post things like that a lot more. Robert here, wonderful to have you on the chat. Robert, what's your view on Ehang saying they have 343 applied patents registered or applied for amounts to 343? Would you say that number is meaningless? I'm asking you here, not in an illegal capacity, but purely for our entertainment. Is the Kunqiang statement relating to sales prices enough for you? Yeah, I I'm struggling with that one a little bit too. Let me just find it in here. Where was it here? The one thing that I don't like about this statement is the pricing and other terms offered are the same. Now, what he doesn't address is, was there an error in the filing? Because we had these drones priced at very high prices, and then we had the drones priced at rather low price. Well, it's actually accurate price the second time around, but that first filing still doesn't quite make sense to me. So yeah, thanks for spotting that there. Sounds like Channel 2. You have a good eye for that. I totally, when I was reading this, I was also thinking exactly that. It would be good to have a little bit more clarification on that. I mean, there's a lot for them to get through. So I think I am quite happy that they addressed 90%, I would say, of the or 95% even of these accusations. And you kind of see how you can portray things in one way or in another way, and both look sort of equally plausible. The question is really what is and isn't true. Now, the issue with short sellers, of course, is that they short first, then they put the report out, and then they make a load of money. They would have made an absolute fortune yesterday. They must have been laughing themselves to sleep. They managed to tank a stock 60%, and that's serious for a sort of, what was it, 8 billion market cap or so. And they made a load of money, and then now they don't care. I mean, maybe they actually bought some shares today because they thought it would go up again, and they make a bit of money on that, and then they sell off again tomorrow. The other thing that I didn't really like about these guys here, here they are. I didn't particularly come to like them sort of personally, sort of didn't think they were that sort of trustworthy. And obviously, I don't know them. I can't say that they're not, but just the way they presented it. One thing that they said is that, the terrible thing with companies like this, they said, is that it's always the small individual investor who suffers. And if you look at the shareholding of Ehang, it's pretty much 100% retail, right? Apart from the original investors. And he tanked the stock. He's the one who hurt them. And he said, I really hated to see retail investors suffer here. Well, he's the one doing it. He could have just put out a report and said, these are our concerns, guys, look into it. But no, he shorted the stock first and made a ton of money on it. Now, they had success basically 2 out of 7 times. And by success, I mean, not that they made money. I think they make money a lot of the time. But if they were right, the stock would long-term tank, right, and go off market. Now, the one where they were certainly, well, the first one that they sort of claim is their claim to fame is Luck and Coffee. They claim they were somehow involved in that. The interesting thing is that it isn't on their website. It's the only one that they don't show on their website, and that is a little bit suspicious. And I don't want to go into the game that these guys are in and sort of point fingers. But when you are putting all of your research on, I'm trying to find it here, guys. I haven't got it open at the moment. But if you look on their website, let's just have a look. Where are they? Wolfpack research. Here we go. See, they list all of their research for all of these companies, but they didn't list Luck and Coffee. And all the media coverage that's out there is that these guys called Luck and Coffee, which is why we should believe them. So everything else, IQ, look, I painted in here, right, where they, if you watched my video earlier, you will have seen when they shorted it, and they've basically all gone up since. INSP has gone up since, QTT has gone up since. You're wondering what I'm clicking on because my head's covering it. Apologies, guys. Here, these green flags, basically, I made a little Wolfpack watch list here. All the green ones have gone up. That's Remark Holdings, that's Smart Global Holdings, and long-term have all gone up. The only one that's long-term down is GTT and Luck and Coffee. And by Luck and Coffee, I'm actually not sure they were really involved in that. Perhaps they were, perhaps they weren't. But even if you count that in, it is basically 1 out of 7 where they made a lasting impact, which means that they were fundamentally right. Because if you are fundamentally right, these companies' share prices should long-term go down from when you called their bluff. So let's look at some more of your comments, guys. Robert says that's a lot of patents. Okay, thank you there for your expert opinion on that. Thanks very much. Okay, you think that is quite a bit. Seabiscuit, I'm up 40%. Will be 200 as per your original video. Okay, let's see if that's where we get to. Seabiscuit, thanks for your comment there, Charles T. Some fellows were saying the timing of the report was purposely made in the midst of Lunar New Year, so of course there would wouldn't be any burning facilities. Well, they're claiming that they went in there in sometime in mid-January. So that wasn't quite Lunar New Year. I also thought that. I thought, but this is empty. Well, is it Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year? In which case there wouldn't be or hardly anybody there. But their claim that they made was that they were there sometime in January when factories were certainly still open. Julian, good to have you on the chat here. George wants to talk about NIO and Tesla. Okay, we can get to that in a second. And Angela and Alibaba. Alibaba's quite quiet at the moment, but it is Chinese New Year. And there are sort of news about how wonderfully they're doing on the Chinese New Year front, but nothing really massive. Obviously, government agencies are also probably a little bit on the low-key side at the moment. Armando has made $2,300. Congratulations to you. Robert here, thank you very much. You've just had a look at the United States patent websites, and that shows only 2 published applications for EHANG. So the other 332 or so are probably in China, I would imagine. And they haven't filed those in the US. But thank you very much for checking that out. Much appreciated, Robert. The applications that are newer than 18 months are not published, though. USPTO publishes the applications 18 months after filing, so we don't know what the new patents might reveal. Okay, that's also very interesting information. Obviously, this is a relatively young company. They could have filed a ton of stuff even in the US, but we might not see it yet. I suspect I guess that's to kind of protect the filers, so people don't run away with the knowledge before they actually have a patent. Jay wants me to talk about SOS. Okay, I think we probably won't get to that today, Java there, but I'll make a note. I've also seen that it is an interesting one. Mature Music, thank you for subscribing. I love you guys all for subscribing. There are way over 10,000 of us now in this community, which is fantastic. Is Tesla a buy now? What do you think about LKCO drop today? That's also something I had on my list today, but EHANG got in the way, so I will get to that likely tomorrow. NIO's back to the lower. Where does this go from here? Let's talk NIO, buying NIO, guys. Okay, let's do a really quick recap of this, and then we can get to some NIO. Robert, okay, thank you. I'm glad you agree with my hypothesis there that patents that are filed in the US are not published for 18 months to protect the applicant, so we don't all know what they're doing whilst they are not protected yet. Vlad here, you guys want NIO info. Okay, let's do a very quick roundup here. So basically we have this bit of news out here, this link from the EHANG website, and it's on the investor relations website on EHANG, which I've got up here. He replies to quite a lot of it. He's basically saying, look, we don't want pilots. That's the whole point. They're autonomous. So this whole thought that you can't go from helicopters to autonomous EVs, he's basically saying AVs rather. He's saying it's a load of nonsense. He's saying that the first passenger grade model we unveiled in January 2016 was fully autonomous. So we are simply light years ahead of the US companies who are spending billions and not getting anywhere. And I think a lot of that has also got to do with the regulatory framework in China. It's very, very friendly towards EHANG. They want to be the leader, not just in EVs, but also in AVs. So they're letting them test these passenger carrying drones or AVs with tourist sites, and also they're allowing the test flights, and they're doing that probably in a more facilitating manner than perhaps the regulators around the world who see this as sort of getting in the way of planes. And he's basically saying that you don't need 5 to 10 billion US dollars to create a network. You don't need to burn money, he's basically saying, to get something. We have dedicated engineers and they're doing a good job. He's saying we have core tech strengths here, and they are based around safety, autonomous control, and eco-friendliness. And we believe we are the leader in AAVs globally with 343 patents, which Robert here very kindly on the chat said that he's found 2 of them filed in the US. The other 341 could either be filed in China or they could be filed within the last 18 months, and therefore they wouldn't yet show up on the United States Patent and Trademark Office website. They've invested 37 million in R&D. He's basically saying money isn't everything. We are thrifty, and the other big allegation is that the motors are bought from this sort of hobby drone company, T-Motor. He says that it's absolutely wrong. We do not use any motors made by T-Motor in our EHT-16. He isn't excluding the possibility here that they're using T-Motor parts or T-Motor motors in their smaller drones, because they have a lot of smaller drones for sort of watching things, filming things, carrying small parcels. But he's saying in the passenger ones, they're not made by T-Motor. He says we're using proprietarily designed and manufactured motors made by our designated supplier. So he's saying we don't make them, and that's perhaps also why we didn't see an assembly line for motors, because they do buy them in, and I have nothing against that. I think if you use a mobile phone, your supplier manufacturer likely buys all of the components in, and it's a fantastic phone nevertheless. You don't need to make everything. And he says the T-Motor motors are significantly different from our motor products, and that the picture that they showed there of that sort of what looked like a passenger drone on the T-Motor website is actually a model that's come out after the EH216, and perhaps T-Motor is sort of knocking off the EH216 here with a more basic model. He then says we have done 10,000 trial flights in 41 cities and 8 countries, and we have a CAAC airworthiness certificate, and we are the best in class product. We work with basically aviation authorities around the world. He says short selling reports are made by profit seekers, which is sort of stating the obvious. Now this one here on the sort of related party contracts, they were alleged that they were sham contracts. He says that Kunxiang, who's the party they allege these contracts are with, and I say they, I mean Wolfpack. He says they were not a shareholder prior to the IPO, and to his best knowledge, they're not a shareholder now either. So therefore, the motivation that they allege that they've manufactured sham contracts to benefit from the IPO, pre-IPO, he says is false. He says they are arm length transactions, so they're not getting preferential prices here. The one thing I'd like to have seen in here is to explain why we have two massively different product prices on those two filings, and why they were then redacted later on a confidentiality basis. I do get confidentiality, but when the prices are so different, it's a little bit worrying. I hope that Ehang clarifies that point also. And he then says the production facilities, that they're basically security cameras did capture a man disguised as a delivery person trespassing one of our facilities around the time, and that the photos they shot were intentionally misleading. He's basically saying they photographed all the empty corners rather than the corners that show stuff. And I've been to a lot of factories in China, and quite often there are multi-story factories, and one floor is all storage. One floor is manufacturing, one floor is R&D. If you go into the storage floor, you'll just see boxes and very few people. So I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it is a possibility. So that's basically how they kind of rebut this. Robert here, one thing that I love about Apple and Tesla is that they are becoming self-reliant. Apple is making its own chips now, and Tesla is making its own batteries and even mining its own nickel. And I totally agree with you there, Robert. I think we are seeing that trend here. You know, we are talking about, I think, you know, NIO is working on chips. Everyone's working on chips. Alibaba is working on chips. I think the mandate in both the US and in China from the government is basically the same: is become self-reliant on chips. Don't rely on the, having to import them. And they also investing more in the upstream manufacturing side, investing in the mining and all of that. I think there are two ways of doing it. I think you could do it in-house, or you can take equity stakes in companies that are doing that. That'll also give you more power over that company in that supply chain. If something is rare and you own 10% of it, of the company, you are very likely to be at the top of the list of the customers who are going to get those chips or those raw materials, because we are seeing huge chip shortages, especially in the automobile industry, where production is dormant in some factories because they simply haven't got the chips. So yeah, thank you very much, Robert, for chipping that in here. Your comments are always very, very valued. They didn't respond to the SEC filing redaction, Opcha there. Hey, another one of our members, welcome, Opcha. Absolutely, that is the one thing I'm missing in here. Everything else, they do rebut. And I think whether you believe one side or the other, I think you can certainly see that there are two ways of looking at it. And it doesn't make it look quite as black and white as the short seller reports like to make it out to. And if you've read a lot of short seller reports, and I do always read them, they're quite interesting. They always present, obviously, a very one-sided piece, and they use the word might and could quite a lot, and that way they sort of get away with it. And if you, this is the prospectus. Let me just see if I still have it open here. Here's the short report. So if you, for example, if you search for the word could, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times, okay? I mean, it's a bit of a random way of obviously looking at the quality of information, but 14 times in 133 pages, and there are a lot of pictures in here also. You know, there's a lot of code in there because they basically don't want to be legally held responsible. They don't want to say this is the case. They're just sort of saying we are alleging something. It might be true, it could be true, but they still managed to tank the market and managed to get us all worried, essentially, and then that's what the market does. However, Ehang has recovered 38% up, but we are still at $64. That is, of course, is still a big drop from the almost $120 or so we were at yesterday, right? So it'll be very interesting to see how that continues. Mature Music, thank you very much for subscribing. I'm glad I caught you here with some interesting information here. This will challenge EH's upside for quite some time. Wait for it, Michael. I think that might well be true. And if you look at some of the other companies that have had this experience, let me move this back out to a day basis. And because so, for example, here, IQ, right? They did a short report on them on the 7th of April 2020, and you can see the stock tanked down quite a bit. It actually recovered very quickly in that case. It recovered within sort of 12, 13 days and is now flying ahead. If we look at Inspire Medical here, they put a short report out on the 22nd of April. And again, it only took 6 days to recover, and it's been, you know, rallying ever since. So that's slightly, to me also, but not just slightly, this sort of story undermines my confidence in Wolfpack, because either the market is utterly wrong, everybody in the market is wrong, and I don't know much about Inspire Medical Systems. I haven't looked at institutional holders or anything like that, but you know, this is a pretty substantial rally that they've got going on here. I would have thought somebody would have checked out those facts, but here's another one, QTT, that they've shorted twice, 2 short reports, one on the 5th of June, that took till about the 22nd of June, so it's about 17 days here to recover. I think it's interesting to see from a kind of perspective how long it might take Ehang to recover if you don't believe that those short rumors. And they shorted it again on the 28th of December, and then depending on where you think they really started with that, it might have taken about a month to recover, and then has had a fantastic rally since. Let's look at a couple more here. Mark, when did they short that? I put in these lines mostly for all of them, but this line seems to elude me, so maybe that one disappeared. SGH, again, guys, apologies, I seem to have lost the red line here. But anyway, we can see that within, sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it's a couple of weeks, sometimes it's a month that it takes for these companies to recover when they do recover. Some do not, especially when facts are actually proven. And really, I think the one question here that is still a little bit up in the air is the one about those redactions. Why do they do that? What do they do that for? We can just see here the Ehang share price declining a little bit again here. I mean, not massively, but you know, we sort of had highs and lows now in the day. So there is obviously still very much market concern out here. Lots more questions here. What's your opinion on graphite stocks? They're blowing up in the market in the next 2-3 years as demand increases. I've done a little bit of coverage on mining, Mature Music. Have a look at some of my EV playlists, and I will certainly be covering some more of that. There are some very interesting things in there. We've looked at quite a lot of battery stocks as well, and the mining field obviously is certainly within that. And you're talking about NMGFT there. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Stick around. I'll get to that hopefully in the next couple of days. When these sort of crazy things happen, of course, it takes my mind off my list. DNO says buying NEO today, buying the dip. In my opinion, Alpha says sellers have a fraud behavior. Price will recover. Wait to the moon. It is a particularly odd side of the sort of free libertarian free speech part of capitalism, isn't it? That you can make these pretty hefty, serious allegations without any real downside to them. They basically make the money, they walk away. Very, very unlikely that they get sued because they put a lot of mights and coulds and allegedly, and they don't really say that that's the case. And if you watch that video of theirs also, they are very careful with their language while making it sound like it is the end of the world. So these guys are very good at it, and you have to give them that. I mean, they managed to tank a stock at 60%, and they also pick quite often on Chinese stocks, because obviously there is a certain sentiment towards Chinese stocks amongst some people in the United States and in the West. And also there is a time zone difference. I think that's also a clever way to do it for them from their point of view. And they have picked Chinese New Year, where perhaps it is a little bit more difficult for Ehang to respond to this quite so quickly, although they did manage to do it within a day. But if they could have done it within an hour, it would have been better. But I guess they also have to talk to their lawyers and their regulators and all this kind of thing before they put stuff out. And yeah, I mean, there is, and it is odd, I think, for a lot of people around the world that this sort of behavior is actually permitted. I get why it is, free speech, it's all fair and square. I mean, we can all say what we want as long as we say it's our opinion and it is in fact. I mean, I always say to you guys, this is entertainment. This is not financial advice, and I really mean that. And it gives me some license to express my thoughts and the thoughts of our furry creatures, guys. So do please hit that like button. I keep donating 1 cent for every like to animal sanctuaries in the United States. This month we're doing the Gentle Barn, and we're collecting quite a nice sum of money here. So Ian just posted the video of the guy who was filmed inside for Wolfpack. Okay, where are you seeing that? It's not on the Ehang website yet. Let's have a quick look at the news, see if we can play that. Right, let's see where that is. If you know what source you saw, the news isn't always the best thing in the world, but let's see past hour what we have here on Ehang. Twitter hasn't got it yet either. Have a look on Twitter. Ehang seeking alpha, Business Insider. No one has got it yet. Well, sue would not sue me about it. I don't think you can. Read the report. It's all might, could, allegedly, perhaps. It indicates, it's all that sort of language. It isn't, I've got Wolfpack on here. Ehang, let's just follow Ehang here, see what they are saying, if they've tweeted this. They've put this news article out. That's what we were just reading. But I can't see them putting a video out. But anyway, I mean, I think you're basically going to see a guy wearing a hat and probably sunglasses, or dressed as a courier or something, carrying a parcel and walking around with a mobile phone. So it doesn't necessarily show you very much. Although it would be interesting if that footage shows us other parts of the factory. And I'm kind of hoping they're going to put out some stuff in that. It's on their Ehang YouTube channel. Okay, let's look at YouTube Ehang. I can't spell YouTube Ehang, but let's see what they've got out here. Here's the Ehang channel, videos. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to make this big for you guys. Here he is. Okay, thanks very much for finding that, Jay. Promnam, that's fantastic that you spotted that. So here he is outside the factory talking to somebody. That's the security guard there. This is a very, very typical setup of how these factories look. And if you look vaguely confident, you can kind of look around. He doesn't look very confident, actually. He looks utterly lost, which is also a way to get into places. And here he is. There's a television on, which kind of implies there's probably somebody there. There's no one at the desk front reception. Okay. But the lights are on. And then he's weaseling around here through what looks like office space. And that's probably the receptionist. I don't know. I don't want to assume that that's what she is, but he's talking to people there, asking them some questions, obviously. And then saying thank you and walking away. Now, there are more people here walking out. So I think this whole thing that the only employee they saw was the security guard outside, that part certainly isn't true, because we've already seen 4 people in the security footage with this chap. Here's somebody else who's carrying parts. They are carrying parts. There are 4 more people. Really, really very interesting. Jay Promlab there, you are our star source today. Thanks very much for spotting that so quickly and sharing it with us. That's why I like this community, guys. So do join it. Here he is. He's taking pictures outside. We've also just started a Patreon community and a Discord channel there, so we can all exchange information all the time. Now, can we just go back? So you have to go back one quickly for the timestamp. So this was 18th of January, 1301. And this is 1 hour later, which looks like a tour of people being let in there. So I guess they want to make the point, and I'm being suggested next. Isn't that nice? So they're basically suggesting there that, you know, he was probably there at lunchtime or something, and he just about missed the big crowd, and there's a lot going on. So very interesting video there. Thank you very much for sharing that. And it's very good. I think Ehang is using this method to share it. It's getting some views as well. 88% likes only. That's a bit odd, isn't it? But that's very, very, very kind of you to share that. As you can see, there are workers everywhere, but Wolfpack said the office was empty. Yep, absolutely. I mean, this further undermines Wolfpack's credibility here. It looks like a very nice modern office. If you've just missed it, I'll just play it again while we are talking. It looks like a proper modern office. There's a bus outside with Ehang, which is probably what brought all those people there we see at the very end of the clip. And he's just strolling around taking pictures. There are cars outside, there are vans outside. It looks like an active place, right? People are moving around. They sort of gave us the impression in the photos that it was all a dead, empty building. It certainly doesn't look like that. There is an Ehang van, an Ehang bus, a coach with a door open in the back, actually implying that they're moving sort of 50 people upwards in and out of this place. So, Opcha, I agree with you. Der Ja-Sager, greetings to Germany there, thank you very much. Xpeng or IQ, yes, absolutely. I've already did it on the live. I've already said my mistake there, obviously, on that Xpeng video. I have also put out, or I think it's coming out in about 2 hours, a complete clarification on my mistake there on Xpeng, which actually, funnily enough, I think makes the story of that video better. So I think in the scheme of things, it might actually make it more interesting. But thanks very much, Webby. I appreciate everybody calling me out on my errors, and I'm always the first to admit them. And I have put a video out on that. Well, actually, it's coming out in 2 hours because I keep moving it back because more exciting things happen. But yes, come on, guys, smash that like button. If you do, guys, I I donate 1 cent for every like to our lovely fluffy community here. Email and password length can be seen. Geld there. Thank you very much. It is a rather long and complicated password though. But yes, thank you very much here. And that actually isn't mine. But yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out. Thanks, guys. So, guys, any more questions on this? Anybody concerned? Are we still concerned about here? You see that tour group plowing through here. Are we still concerned about the, at least I'm still a little bit confused about that original contract, about that SEC filing. Everything else to me, I have a lot less credibility. I give these guys, Wolfpack, a lot less credibility. If they'd just given us the one fact on that contract, I think I would believe them a lot more, but they gave us a lot of what looks like BS at this point, and therefore I'm minded to disregard their opinion a lot more than I was this morning. Have you read the statement that's underneath the video from Ehang on the website? Mr. Jim, yes, we just did that. We went through that here we just went through it. It basically refutes pretty much all of the points, I think, credibly. It certainly puts a different perspective on it. I think there are different ways of looking at it. They're basically saying, look, we don't need to burn a lot of money to be a great company. We've got great engineers in-house. They are our asset. And we don't believe in putting pilots in AAVs because it really defeats the purpose of being an AAV. And he says we've been doing, actually, our drones have been AAVs since 2016. So we are simply light years ahead of everybody else. Even if they are spending $5 billion as Wolfpack insinuates is required, it doesn't mean that that's what you need to do. We are doing it better. We are doing it smarter. And, you know, there are different ways of running businesses. Burning a lot of money, a lot of investor cash isn't necessarily required to get you there. Thank you very much. Oh, the YouTube video. Okay, let's have another quick look at this. Right, what's underneath here? Right, from day one, our business establishments through VC financing IPO until today, we've been viewing ourselves as a startup firm in the cradle position of the UAM industry. As a global leading firm with top-notch technology, we're incredibly feeling the trust and support from various parties. Recently, we attracted more attention from investors. Trust also means blah, blah, blah. This is also a little bit happy. However, we are opposing any malicious and wrong accusations with unknown purposes. Someone has sneaked into our premises to conduct so-called investigation. Their videos are misleading. We found evidence in our CCTV system. We respond to the wrong accusation step by step. For Ehang, the most difficulty lies in continuing improvement in production and new business model exploration. While we see immaterial impact on our business operations from any short selling, we feel the responsibility to stand out, respond to any false accusations, and provide a healthy industry. So, okay, I think that's interesting. I think really they've given us quite a lot of detail here on their investor relations page. If you want to read that back, guys, I'll post the link below. Of course, in fact, I don't know if I'm allowed to post links in here. I think you guys can't. I think I might be able to. I think that's probably how this works. Here we are. Okay, so you can see that link if you want to read it for yourself in your own time and make out your own time. Aaron says, is it a good time to buy Ehang or is it very risky? Well, I mean, Ehang has been a very, very volatile stock for quite some time. It certainly carries a significant amount of risk. As always, I can't give you financial advice. I'm strictly prohibited from doing that. I can only entertain here. You can just look at our lovely rally we've had, and we are now back to where we were in sort of mid-January. So we sort of set us back a month, if you will. Some people are seeing it as a buying opportunity. However, we are now intraday hovering around that. We're kind of hovering around. I think that's sort of fair to say. We're hovering around $63 or so. I'm tempted to put in technical indicators here, but I think, given that this is all event-driven, I don't think it's going to give us a great deal. It's giving us a very narrow range here of Fibonacci retracements. And that is actually, Fibonacci is a pretty good one. It basically called out the bottom here at 62.41 on that last rally. And now we are heading upwards, and then we are heading downwards again a little bit. So I would be a little bit cautious today. If you have a very long-term horizon on anything, I mean, these dips can be good buying opportunities, but you basically have to fundamentally come to a conclusion whether you are long-term bullish on this particular company and their business model, and whether you think at $64 this is a great buy. Dolce would wait. I think everybody has to really call, like, I mean, I'm not one who has to buy the very bottom of something. For example, you know, when Alibaba got hit at Christmas, it fell down to 211. I bought it at about 220. I was very happy with that because for me, I could see the momentum rising again. We certainly saw a lot of momentum this morning, but right now we are moving a little bit sideways here. As I say that, we're up another 2%. So obviously people are pouring into this again and seeing this as an opportunity, and see we're now up 40% on the day, which is very nice. We're at $65. That is psychologically always a big mark. Round numbers for some reason stick in our mind, so that might be a good place. And look, we're going up further. We are going up and up and up. That's actually quite pleasing to see. It sadly will not hurt the Wolfpack chaps because they've already made their money and they are out. Mr. Jimmers, I agree with you. The comments and rebuttals have been very calm. They are sensible, I think. I think they are sort of presenting facts, and they're not. They even saying, you know, we understand short selling is what it is, and they're not saying, you know, they could have come out and said short selling is evil, it should be banned, it's a terrible thing to do, and that kind of thing. They didn't. And I think it kind of puts them in a better light. And I think maybe that's why they stewed on this for a day, and they sort of took a day to write this statement. I don't know whether Mr. Hoos speaks English either. It might have had to be translated as well by somebody. And then I'm sure lawyers would have had to check it as well, and possibly regulators in China. So generally speaking, a one-day turnaround there is fairly impressive. Stock is moving a little bit sideways again here, guys. Just fallen again below $65. But overall, of course, it is a big recovery, but is still a long way off, because when you fall 60%, you need to grow move up a lot more than 60% to get back to where you started, right? You need to more than double again. So we are still, as you can see here in my minute by minute chart, which is a little ridiculous, you can see, we are still way below our peak here at, where were we? 100, way over $120, 128 or so, 126. Manufacturer in a hotel room. Okay, they didn't actually talk about that particular point. I mean, there are a lot of companies who have multiple addresses, and it doesn't need to be a hotel room. It could be that that was where they first registered. It could be that behind that hotel is an office. It could be that behind that hotel at one point was a shared or serviced office. In Hong Kong here, for example, there are certain buildings like IFC, International Finance Center, for example, where basically everyone who's anyone has a registered office, and it's all on the same floor, and they're not actually there. It is a serviced office address, and there are big funds, big organizations who are there. It doesn't make them dodgy or dubious. They just wanted that IFC address, and that's what they're doing, and that's what they're paying for. And you see that with lots and lots and lots of funds and investors. So to me, that doesn't really mean much to me, especially as there are 3 addresses that they listed, and for one of them was that. To me, that's a little bit more they're trying to create an environment of distrust. These guys, look, we found little things that don't really matter from an investor point of view, but it is designed to discredit their credibility. Now, there I used credibility twice or 3 times in a sentence. So Wall Street good there. Can you imagine manufacturing tests in a hotel room? Well, I don't think Ehang actually ever claimed that they were manufacturing something in a hotel room. It was an address that was listed somewhere. It wasn't their headquarter, and it wasn't their manufacturing site, and it wasn't their new manufacturing site. So I don't really know where that address came from. Why is the timestamp of the video 18th of January? It should be February. No, very good question there. You were invited. The short sellers Wolfpack said that they went and did this in mid-January. So they didn't claim that they did it just now. Had they done it just now, actually, they would have lost credibility because it's Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, and actually a lot of places are shut. George just says the lack of assembly line is what concerns me. Well, I agree with you there. You don't, however, know that they don't have an assembly line, because we just saw pictures of certain parts of certain rooms. It doesn't mean that there aren't other rooms with assembly lines. So I'm hoping that Ehang, after the video they've just put out, are also going to put out some more videos showing us the actual insides of their headquarters and facilities, because that's would be the easiest way to build trust, I think. So hopefully they're going to do that. Tony Stark made a suit to the cave, so why not? There's also there. Okay, Wolf will be accused by Ehang. Wolf will destroy and shut down. You were invited. Why is the time so? Okay. What is today date in Asia? And not lie. January 18. Okay. Do you believe is real or fake company like China Hustle? Look, when I read it, I was concerned by 3 points in particular. I was concerned by the related party transactions. I was concerned by the collection rate, and I was concerned by the court case. Now, I'm no longer really concerned by the court case, because they're saying this is an arbitration between pre-IPO shareholders. So they're somehow squabbling over shares there. And that's quite possible. Like if you invest in private equity, there's a pool of you quite often. You set up a company, you're going on together, and then afterwards you can squabble about it. So that's a possibility. And therefore, to me, that isn't such a big concern. The collection rate, actually, one of our lovely people in our community posted in the comments to my last Ehang video, so check out the comments, guys, an explanation of why, from an accounting standpoint, they believe that they're looking at that the wrong way, and that collection rate is not a fair comparison. I'm not an accountant. I can just see that there are 2 sides to that story, so I'm a little bit less concerned about that, but I haven't forgotten it. The related party. Now, we are told that this party is actually not a shareholder, and they were not a shareholder pre-IPO. So that removes the incentive to falsify records. So I'm no longer concerned about that part. I would still like an explanation for these now redacted prices that were stated in that SEC filing. I'd love to see an explanation for that. But for me, that is pretty much the last item in the back of my mind where I'm thinking, right? For all the rest of it, we have 2 sides of a story. Both sides are plausible, but one side's making a lot of money out of that, and has made a lot of money out of that, and sort of presented it. I mean, read the report, guys. Please do read the Wolfpack report. because when you read it, the beginning I feel is credible, and then the more I get through it, for me it loses credibility because they make a lot of sort of small kind of allegations that are not really, they're neither here nor there, and they sort of try to create an impression. I think by doing that they're actually harming themselves. But IMDb says it's criminal they can throw out fake news to make personal gains. Yeah, it is free speech and it is capitalism. It is what it is. I jumped on board at 5392, very happy. Okay, I'm not sure what you jumped on board on, but Chairman Jinping should investigate them for corruption or they're back. Look, I imagine there might be an investigation. It might be the SEC who investigates them. We have in the past, when there has been actual wrongdoing, also had the same experience in China and people were fined. But at the moment, it is he said, she said, right? That's kind of where we are. It certainly created uncertainty. It's created doubt, and the market hates that. And that's why the market is down massively still. We are still down pretty much 50%. And that is the effect of these short sells. Now, when we look at the track record of Wolfpack, the track record isn't very good. We just looked at it. At least 5 out of the last 7 companies that they shorted have since gone up in their share prices very, very substantially. So that makes me think these guys are short-term profit seekers rather than the ones who really expose massive underlying problems and to sort of protect shareholders. I didn't get the impression also from watching their video that that was their thought at all. They're just in it to make money, and that's fine. I mean, everybody is entitled to that. The video is from Monday, 18th of January, 2021. Absolutely. Thank you very much for checking out. It was a Monday. Last month, China, yes, there was a chap who got executed for corruption. That was a very, very serious case. It wasn't just your normal sort of corporate corruption. That guy was tasked with cleaning up corruption in the Chinese sovereign wealth fund. That was his job. He was, remove bad investments and remove the corruption. He then went in and helped himself to the money while pretending to clean up corruption. And I think that is really why that sentence was so drastic, because he was treated as a sort of, overlord of the financial sector, and China had access to everything and was in a very, very powerful position. And he abused that position to himself, enrich himself, and further harm the sovereign wealth fund, which is, the state's money, the people's money, essentially, it's taxpayers' money. So I think that's why that one was particularly harsh. I didn't see anybody else, but yes, that did get some international traction. Robert says, what's the best way to message you outside of YouTube? Do you entertain ideas for subjects to be covered? I get you only have a limited amount of time. Absolutely, Robert. Robert, you can always email me through the channel. It is on my channel. I think you have my email already. So do please email me. I do read your emails, absolutely. YouTube doesn't have much sort of chit-chat yet, which is why we've just set up our Patreon, and through that our Discord, so that is going to be building up a lot in the next couple of days, and then we can also chat there more live and 24/7 for those of us who don't sleep at Hong Kong hours. So Robert, you're very welcome to suggest things to me. I always love hearing from you. Dan, what are your thoughts on NIO and Tesla? We must get onto that. It seems Wolfpack has a video, absolutely. I have watched it. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it is here. I will, you can get that link from their website and you can watch it. It's a rather lengthy, it's a half an hour a presentation really to put their side of the story across. And you can, of course, form your own views on that. Also, their report, which is here, the Wolfpack research report, is also on their website. So do also check that out. I always encourage everybody to read all sides of everything and come to your own conclusion. Would love to get a quick comment on NIO from you, Felix, and from Hong Kong to Ivan Low. Good to have you on the chat. Okay, let's have a quick look at our lovely NIO. I have actually got a video coming out on that just shortly. We are selling off here, which of course is not nice to see. And let me just make this not minutes or 30 minutes, because that's just silly. Even on an hourly basis, let's make it 4 hours, otherwise we don't get anything sensible out of this. And let's have a look at what is actually going on here. We are at 57,665. So this sell-off continues rather aggressively. We are now below our sort of long-term trend line. Let's have a quick look at what our lovely indicators shout out here. Let's have a look at RSI. Okay, that is a sell-off signal, guys. And this is very short term when I'm looking at here. If I do this on a day basis, you get a bit of a medium-term basis, which is more sensible for technical analysis. And as always, guys, this is not, why is that such a short line? This is not financial advice. This is just my ramblings and entertainment. And you can see here, if I get that line in here, we are, and I'll magnify that for you guys so you can see it, we have just crossed below the 50-point line, just. For me, that is a sort of sell indicator. It doesn't mean you have to sell, but it is an indicator, and always I recommend looking at more indicators than just the one. The last time we were below 50-point mark, we actually recovered very, very quickly. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but if you just see what was happening here, we went up very, very, very quickly. You see that there and here. So it's not a massive, massive sell-off signal yet, but it is certainly an indicator in that direction. And if we look at relative volatility here, that keeps falling also. And that is, generally speaking, volatility falls off, the stock falls. Volumes also, you can see that down here. You can see that little line here. You see volumes have been falling, and that's one of the reasons that we have been seeing the stock fall. When you have volumes that are teeny, tiny, and that's really what they have been. Here are my little red lines. You see my little red lines down here, guys? These ones here I was indicating here. Each time volume falls off, the stock falls off, volume is still down. And I know we're not at a full day yet, so it'll be interesting to see where we get to for the full day volume. Let's have a look at MACD. MACD is turning downwards. It has actually, MACD, since the 26th of January been on a sell-off indicator. It is widening its indication there, but again on relatively small volume. You see these little red bars down here? These are not very big volumes. Look at what a real sell-off looks like in December. It is substantially more than that. Let's look at a couple of more, guys, here. This is an interesting one. This finds the bottom of the market, and it's actually been quite good at that. It isn't giving us a bottom of the market yet, so we can skip that. And we can also look at this squeeze momentum indicator. This is one of my new favorites. A squeeze is on. This has nothing to do with short squeeze, but when the squeeze gets released, we get an explosive motion up or down, and I'll keep an eye on that, guys, and let you know when it does. So do make sure you are subscribed so you get our daily NEO coverage here. Let me just delete this Fibonacci line here and put that in again, see if that gives us a different perspective on things. So we have basically the next Fibonacci line, support line here is at 54.48, and you can also see actually there are a couple of times here where we've hit that price point as a low point recently. So that's a double support. So that will be the next support, I would say, after this. There is a bit more support here, actually, short term. If you look in, let me draw a couple of lines in here. You can see where we were on the 5th of February, right? That was at about 55.97 or so, just about 56. And that's where we tested today. We went as low as 55.90. That's about where that resistance, that support level has gone up again. So 55.90 actually here also a now double support level, and hopefully that will hold. This is a growth stock, guys. It is been trending in this direction. We've been above this trend line here, but it is of course very feasible that we do a bit of this. At the moment, I don't see this as a big break from our trajectory because it is still pretty close to it, but we have to keep a close eye on that. There isn't anything out major in terms of news that I have seen. In fact, actually, the news is broadly speaking quite positive on NEO, but it is Chinese New Year here. It's a little bit of a slow news item. and people also take profits, right? And when you get these sort of how many days are we now? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking at the 5th sell day. That's a little bit unusual. We, generally speaking, here in the last couple of weeks and months, the longest we've had here, really, this was a 4-day sell-off. We had obviously that bigger sell-off here, but before that it was always 3 or 4 days. So because it's a little bit continuing, it might be a bit of a deeper correction. For me, these stocks are long-term stocks, guys. I mean, it depends on everybody looks at it. If people trade this very short-term, I get there in and out more quickly. But generally speaking, you know, we are up. I don't want to sugarcoat this, but we are, of course, up still a huge amount from, say, 15th of December, right? We were at $39, so we are still up some, you know, pretty substantial amount there, $17 or so. A couple more questions here. Luckin got hit by short, but Luckin is a real product, not digital image like Nikola Motor. Do you entertain ideas for subjects to be covered? Again, that you have a limited amount of time. Tag lady here. Thank you very much for that question. I always listen to everybody's suggestions. I love it when you guys suggest stuff. So always do put them in the comments. I read them all. I don't have time to cover everything, but a lot of the time, actually, I get quite interesting comments from you, and it makes me think about something different, and it makes me make some coverage on that. How much trouble repercussions can Wolfpack research face if all these claims end up being false? I would say none at all. I'm sure that their research report was very carefully read by an attorney in the US, and they would have signed off on pretty much every sentence of that. And that's why it's full of, I think I just counted the word could. It was mentioned in there, I think, what was it? I don't know, 15 times or something on 30 pages. And you know, they use the words might and allegedly, and it could, and it might lead to the insinuation, that sort of thing. They're very cautious with their language, whilst giving the impression on a quick read that it's all fact and proven, and that's how you write these things. There's a real skill to that. So I think they haven't got any risk there. Does Ehang have any real product or just image digital content? Well, they were just telling us here on their website basically that the motors are proprietary but made by a supplier, and some people don't like that. I don't have an issue with it. You know, there is a lot of great products out there that are basically manufactured by some sort of OEM manufacturer, and that's a way to essentially reduce capital expenditure. But the question really is, of course, what IP do they have? Well, they did tell us that they filed 343 patents. And Robert here, who's lovely on the chat here, just checked it out at the US Patent Office, and you could find 2 of those. And he also clarified that it takes 18 months to show up for them to show up there. So they could have filed an extra 341 in the last 18 months, and we wouldn't see it to protect themselves, or they could have filed them in China, of course, or different jurisdictions. Tiger Lee says, I cannot believe these accusations can be legal. If you allege stuff, it's all fair in the game. You can make pretty much whatever statement you want, as long as you are a little bit cautious of how you phrase it. Robert, you're very kind to sign up for Patreon, and you pressed the like button for the furry animals. That's very kind of you, Robert. So we're also going to get that Discord group going there through Patreon, and I think that's going to be really good fun, because a lot of you guys want to chat, and we're not always live, so it's more difficult to chat, and YouTube at this point doesn't quite have that sort of live chat function yet. And then we can exchange informations and posts and comments and articles and videos and everything on there, even when I'm asleep. So I think that's a wonderful pack. Robert here says, I think these Wolfpack folks may have manipulated the market. If so, they have some legal issues. Thanks for pointing that out there, Robert. And I know you're not doing that in a legal capacity, or you're saying that. It really, I guess, I really am not a US attorney, of course, at all. But if you read it, it is rather cautiously worded. It says, we reveal why we believe Ehang is built on, you know, blah, 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 blah. The language is, you know, purported customer. So they use quite a lot of words like that. And that is, I think, how they are protecting themselves. That's the summary. And then they say, also common with a stock promotion. So they're saying it's a general statement, right? And they're not applying it really to Ehang. So I think they are quite clever with the way they've done this. And then they're stating some facts which aren't wrong, but might well be misleading. And, you know, this whole PR press release thing here, I think that's a load of nonsense that they spouted out there just to create an impression that there is more to it than there is. And they said the manufacturing facility was practically empty when our investigator visited. Well, what does practically mean, right? The facility has near zero security. Well, we saw a security hut at the front, the security guard, right? So is one person near security? It's unimaginable a factory produces these products. Well, in the United States, you might have higher security levels, but factories in China are generally like that. Yes, there's a fence around it, and there is one security guard typically on staff 24/7, but it's fairly unusual for there to be much more than that. And here it says the manufacturing facility seems to lack. So it seems, it isn't, it is lacking. It's just that we didn't see it, right? So they're kind of giving themselves an opportunity to hear when people come back and find an assembly and say, well, we just didn't see it. The rooms we were walking into, we didn't see it. And then this is patently false based on the video we've just seen, that our investigator was able to walk around the facility for 20 minutes without seeing a single person working on a weekday afternoon. Now, is it false? I would say it's false. Now, you could claim he didn't see anybody working, but he saw people walking around and he chatted to people, and you could somehow argue that wasn't working. But I think that's a bit of a dubious statement there. So, Robert, I think that's one that certainly doesn't make them look very good. And then they get a third person, an outside person, to give us an opinion. So again, they are scot-free. They've asked someone else and they're just reporting what somebody else said. And that's kind of how the whole report is written. Look, the real operations appear, right? Very cautious language, be a fraction. And then they walked into somewhere. Did they walk into the right address? We don't know that. I've wandered for hours around addresses in China, and I was just at the wrong place, and the office block was around the corner and down an alley, and it was just me being confused because I don't know the place, and that's just how it is. And then, you know, he was able to find the office, and he says there was only one employee present when we visited. But that's not actually Ehang. He went to someone else's office, right? He went to someone who's allegedly a customer. So there was a lot of stuff in this. You know, here's a could, you know, because I'm searching for coulds here. And again, here's a could. It has near zero security. They kind of keep repeating stuff. They make it longer, make the report longer, make it appear like more. Here's a picture of a door. What does a picture of a door tell you? This is a little bit like, you know, when something big happens on the news and a reporter stands outside a building and says, I'm standing outside a building here, and inside this building 12 hours ago something happens, and there's no real reason for them to stand outside that door, but it gives the impression that they know more than they know, and that there is something going on there sort of live when there really isn't. And then, you know, they're kind of repeating things here, and then it reminds us of other frauds we exposed decades ago. It reminds them, but they're not saying it is. It is just sort of like, that's what we were thinking. In our experience, it's a good indication. So this is very, very cagey language. It's just when you read it quickly, it sounds like it's all fact. So I think one has to look at both sides. Do you guys come to your own conclusion? Here's the Ehang rebuttal to it. Check out both. And I think that's always the thing. Don't act rashly on one headline. At least Google it and find an opposing headline, and then you might have something that's a little bit more accurate there. Michael, there, thank you for your kind comments. You buy things on Nextdoor pre-IPOs companies. That's an interesting one. I've looked at that. I would still love to know how that really works. That's kind of an interesting one. So you're basically buying venture capital issued stocks who obviously have the right to sell that to you. Has anyone seen the real Ehang product? I have not, but you know who I think it has? And this is a little bit speculation on my part. Volkswagen, right? And there was I think I did a video on that. And there's an interview on LinkedIn between the Volkswagen CEO global and the Volkswagen CEO China. And the China guy of Volkswagen has been in what sounds very much like an Ehang, because he said I was an AAV that was autonomous and was flying me around. And that is basically what it sounds like. And I think Ehang also did the air display show for Volkswagen there with their small drones. They sort of can do quite impressive things with that. So people have been in them. They are available at 5 tourist sites in China. I don't think that's made up. You can also see that on Todo, on like the sort of bite downs type things. And I might actually do that for tomorrow. I have the app on my phone, and I can link that up to here, and I can show you some people actually moving around in them. I think that might be a nice thing to do. I'll make a note of that. That's a good suggestion, because people should see what is real and what isn't. In my view, the drones are real, but here we have one allegation and one rebuttal, so we have to come to our own conclusion. The thing is, NIO is down now because Tesla is down. Well, that generally happens when Tesla is down. It drags NIO with it. Let's pull them both up here. Tesla. Yeah, there you go. So it's basically, I think that's probably the answer. This Tesla is dragging down. It has been doing that the last couple of days. So we need to get Tesla back up. Somebody needs to buy Tesla. Forget about the passenger drone for a second. They are also leaders in the delivery drone space, Food and Parcel. Absolutely, a lot of their business is these small drones and they have that joint venture with DHL and some pilot programs there. And there is a law out in China as of the 1st of January. You are actually allowed to deliver parcels less than 5 kg, the sort of last mile delivery, and that's a very, very interesting one. And there are obviously also loads of other applications for drones, some sort of surveying, power lines to infrastructure, to manufacturing, to construction, to mining. I mean, the list is endless. All the places where the helicopters are currently used, because they're horrendously expensive to run. So Ehang just posted a video showing the interviewer receiving a company tour by Star Office. Nicholas, yes, thank you very much. We did just look at that. We did have a look at that. So thank you very much for pointing that out. Anybody could Photoshop a flying car and it seems real. I think Ehang and Nicola did Photoshop with their dream product. Once we got there, it's a fair view. Everybody's entitled to their take on this. Seabiscuit, has anyone found the T-boy at NASA that tested a DJI brushless motor and then scratched his head and all for just $50? Okay. The point of wide open door, the IP may not be worth jack squat, says Michael. Well, it depends on what this facility they're walking into was, right? I mean, was he walking into an office? Was he walking into a warehouse? Or was he walking into an R&D facility? I think that's the part that they didn't really answer. And you can show a picture in one direction or the other. I'm not saying one or the other is correct. I'm just saying a photo only tells the story the photographer wants it to tell. I mean, look at tabloids, right? They always make things appear in a certain way. I'd rather be wrong than lose money. I'm not judging it till I see the product in my eyes. Fair view. Absolutely, Wall Street got there. What happened to the stock market today? Lots of excitement there. Pirapat, thanks for joining in. Can you analyze the EHANG chart? I can, but you know what? It's a little bit purposeless at this point. When you have event-driven stocks, event-driven big event items, your technicals fall out of importance, because your chart does not tell you that a stock is going to get hit over the head with a short report. It doesn't forecast that. Fibonacci doesn't forecast that, nor do any of the other indicators. This assumes a more of a less regular trading pattern. Now we can see here, let me just delete that Fibonacci line. That's perhaps the one, the retracement. But we are below that, so that isn't terribly helpful. Where we now 65.60. We have actually recovered above it, so you could see here basically that line at sort of $64. That's a support line. We touched that on the 29th of January, and again today it is the Fibonacci line, and we've covered above it. So that is a support of sort, and then we need to get above the sort of $70 here, but that's still quite a big ask. Now we are up 41% on the day, and you might be thinking, well, we're 69% down, we're 40% up. That's almost there. Well, not really, because you need to be up way more than 100% to recover where we drop to. Right? That's how percentages work. So we can look at. I'm very happy to pull them up. Of course, we can look at RSIs. Well, there is a kink in here. It is sort of. You can see there's a turnaround in momentum, and that's what the chart is telling us. I don't think that's a huge surprise. Volatility also is pointing us up a little bit, although that was perhaps not the greatest indicator for the sell-off yesterday either. And then we can look at Williams R here. That's quite a short-term one. Again, so that went down into the oversold territory down here. That's what that area down there is, oversold, and then it's turning around, it's moving back up. It isn't a buy indicator at this point. For me, I would always wait until the minus 50-point line, a little dotted line here. Guys, let me magnify that if you're on a small screen. You can see the momentum is heading upwards, and that's what basically all the indicators are going to tell us today, because that's what we can see in the stock price. But you have to take technicals with a little bit of a pinch of salt in a case where you get these massive event-driven items here. Wei Huang there, yes, we have just watched that video of how Ehang have posted that, and let me replay that. It wants to play my videos, isn't YouTube lovely? I'll put that on here again, guys, for everybody to see. Can we put this on a loop? I don't think we can, but so you can just see here what's happening with that. So you can see him wandering around the facility, and there are actually people there. There are vans there. There's a security guard. The car park is full. There's a coach in the background with a door open, implying that there are people moving in and out. And here he is wandering about. Wall Street, absolutely. You are an investor, not a gambler. I totally agree with you. You don't want to speculate, and I think that is a sensible route to take. Thank you, Wei Huang, for reminding us of that. We did watch this a little while ago, because we've been on this live for a little while. But it's good, I think, for everyone who's just joined in. You can see him here wandering around. This is the reception, obviously. There are lights on. Why is there nobody behind the reception? It's lunch hour. It's 12:45, right? Any office you walk into in China between 12:30 and sort of 1:30, there is no one at the reception, or there might be somebody sleeping at the reception. Completely normal here. Here he's found a receptionist. He's talking to her at 12:52, or he's found somebody. And here there are two more people walking in at 12:43 from lunchtime. So the claim that we didn't see anyone at all is obviously nonsense, and it does undermine the credibility of Wolfpack. Here are 1, 2, 3, 4 people, and what are they carrying? Well, it looks very much like parts to me. So obviously something's going on there. We've so far seen 6 or 7 or 8 people. So this claim we didn't see anybody at all is utter nonsense, and it's just designed to discredit the stock and for these Wolf guys to make a ton of money. Now he's outside again. I mean, there are cars parked everywhere. I assume that they are working inside. That is an assumption, though. He's walking around. And then here's the chore. And that's come in at 2 o'clock, because that's after lunch hour. Basically, it is a no-no to walk into an office in China before 2 o'clock. You are basically not welcome. And after that, the whole tour bus came in. And look how many people. I mean, there are people around, right? This whole thought that this is sort of an abandoned place and spot, no one is there, is nonsense. He basically snuck in at lunchtime because he knew at lunchtime there wouldn't be a receptionist there, and you can walk into pretty much any office in China at lunchtime and just walk in. Thanks very much, guys, here for your comments. Appreciate everybody joining our lovely community, guys. Make sure you hit our subscribe button, because we are live here from Hong Kong every single day, and we cover lots of exciting news, not just Ehang, but loads of other things, of course, too. Josiah there, Wolfpack, F Wolfpack, thank you for moderating your language there, guys. I mean, I think really the whole point of our community, guys, is we can share opposing points of view. I think they are always fair. They make us smarter. It's good when everybody disagrees. Let's just do it in a civil manner. And for that, we have also just created a Discord channel. You can access that through my Patreon, which we just launched like literally 30 minutes before, or 10 minutes before this live, because lots of you guys were asking for it. And then we can exchange information 24/7 while I'm asleep, and I can also share with you more sort of smaller tidbits of news as I see them that don't always make it into my videos, because I can't make 100 videos a day on absolutely everything. Ram, I agree with you there. I think Ehang should do a video of their offices and their production facilities and their R&D facilities. I'd love to see that, and I very much hope that they will do that. We can just have a quick look here on the Ehang YouTube channel if they've put out anything else since. No, they haven't. It's just that one. It's got 1,700 views, which isn't. It's fairly decent for Ehang in an hour. So it is good that they're spreading that news. And I think that is actually a very powerful rebuttal here. They must have been trailing through their security footage these last 24 hours because the report, I don't think it told us what time they went in there. At least I didn't think of it. Good night there, Ivan. Christian, what do you think of CCIV, please? I've done a little bit of coverage on CCIV. Highly speculative would be my way of summing that up in 2 words. Why? Because the valuation is 4 times cash. It assumes that they can buy something that at undervalue. And the core investor in that company they're trying to acquire is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. And the Saudis don't let stuff go cheaply for no real reason. They have an incredibly long investment horizon. They generally speaking buy things and they don't want to sell it. And they have basically limitless money. So I don't really see why they would let that go cheaply, or why they would let, even if they're holding on to their stake, why they would let the company sell itself cheaply, or the sort of majority of it. I think they'd have something to say about that. And I think that's a little bit why I'm a little bit cautious on that particular CCIV Lucid merger. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but does it imply a 4x just like that? I don't know. Maybe Lucid has something that's so wonderful that even after they pay fair value for it, it still goes up like that. I mean, look at the Ehang stock price, right? That has been very, very high till yesterday. Even though they are still in the very, very early stages of that business. So perhaps, but it is a highly speculative play, I think. Alan thinks the US authorities should do something about these shorters. Well, I think it's rather difficult because you have free speech. You can put out your research. You can cage it in language that doesn't get you trapped. I know Robert said earlier that he thought they might get into trouble for it if this is really untrue. And I'm sure he knows a lot more about that than I do, but I'm just going to keep replaying this, guys, is that if anybody joining now, the language is very, very cautious, right? There is a lot of coulds and mights and possibly and implies and that sort of language in there. And if you do check out my video on that and you see it. And of course, you can also read it for yourself. Christian, very kind of you. I appreciate you tuning in, guys. Do subscribe our channel. We have just hit yesterday 10,000 followers, which is fantastic, and I'm incredibly grateful for everybody who's hit that subscribe button and supports our channel here. What do you think? You think the same thing on the CCV deal there? We are on the same sort of risk level playing field here. Saudi, they want to go IPO, and I think the Saudis might want to hold it post-IPO also. They might not want to sell their shares at all. But yeah, I think that for me is the kind of holdback on there. Kevin, if it is market manipulation though, then yes. If the allegations are utterly untrue, certainly the ones that they didn't see any staff when they were in there, those are untrue. And that's pretty clear. Now, they could, of course, say they used a third party to do this, right? So they hired somebody in China to probably hire somebody who hired somebody to send this guy in there. And that way they can say, well, the information we received from our researchers in China was this. So they kind of can put distance between themselves and the actual facts that we can actually see here in the video. So it's difficult to get them. That would be my view on that. What's your prediction for EHANG's end of day price? Well, let's have a look at the EHANG chart here, guys. We are basically, let's have a look at the 1 day. We are recovering here, obviously, a little bit. And now we are hovering around very much this sort of $65, $66 range. From a Fibonacci point of view, the 66, 20, 21, that was kind of a resistance there. Then we've gone through that, which is very, very nice. So you can see that going up there. Let's see if we can make this. Oh, no, we can't do it in 30 seconds. We have to do it in a minute. Otherwise, I get charged more. Let me get rid of our indicators. So they're not very good on a 1 minute basis. So we are moving up quite nicely. I think really we're going to probably retest the 68. And I guess, guys, this is not financial advice. And apologies, I'm going to move my enormous head. I think we're likely to retest the 68.20. We have to break through that. That'll be a resistance essentially on an intraday basis because that's where we've been. And then where did we start the day here? Okay, let me zoom out a little bit so we can see just today basically. So this is basically today. We had that rally here at the beginning of the day, right? That. and then we are selling off again. That could be people who are selling out. Maybe some people made some profit quickly and they want to get, when you get from 57 to 74 in an hour, a lot of people will have just day traded this and will have been like, well, I'm out. I made a nice chunk of cash. But you can see, let me just move this over a little bit here so we can see where we are. I want to get the whole day on here. The day's too long. There we go. So you can see a couple of natural resistance points here at 69 again. There would be another one here at 70. These are not strong ones because he's only sort of touched them once. But you can just see these peaks, 71. I'm going to put in a few more here, there, here at 73, etc. You could sort of go on. And then really 74.86 was the peak of the day. At the moment, we are trading upwards and then downwards and upwards and downwards. It's sort of a bit of a sideways recovery here. I think very, very hard to predict where this is going intraday, honestly, with you guys, because this is not a normal situation. This is an event-driven situation. It's possible that throughout the day, we might get a little bit more EHANG news. Maybe we're going to get some more videos. Maybe we're going to get some more information. And obviously, the news media are picking this up, right? So if you just look at EHANG news in the past hour, there is actually very little out there still. Motley Fool just covered it up 20 minutes ago. Some German media here, some Korean media, but this is very little. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of news in the last hour. So, where is CNBC? Where is CNN? Where are, the big investing sort of publications? And they kind of have to get the rebuttal out there for people to read that, for people to actually realize that, because EHANG is largely retail investors. And I think that's really the shame to this, is that when you target a company for short selling and you target a company where everybody in there is basically a retail investor, you really are hurting your average investor. And that's really not a very nice thing to do. I'm not saying one should hurt Wall Street mutual funds or big institutional investors, but they're picking on a kind of a weak segment here, because we as retail investors are more likely to cash out. We are more likely to sort of panic, because once we fall below a certain threshold where we no longer feel comfortable with the size of our loss, a lot of us just simply cash out and think, well, at least I'm saving something here, especially when you don't know what on earth is going on. So Ivan here, you'd love my thoughts on tech platforms like Open Door and Upwork. Okay, I love Upwork as a product, particularly as an investment. It hasn't done as well as I thought, but it's an interesting one. Thanks for suggesting that. I'm writing it down on my list, Ivan, and I'm hoping to get to it. I wish I could buy this stock now out of Germany. This stock is not available in my brokerage. I think it's time to have a second brokerage. I think everybody should have a second brokerage, at least two, preferably in different jurisdictions that give you access to the same market. That's my cautiousness on things. I hope SpaceX don't go out in IPO and share their satellites. Tesla, okay, we're talking about SpaceX. Kathy Woods is on NBC talking about Palantir and her other investments. But made sure to check it out later. I have a video out on that about an hour ago. They invested $1.5 million extra stocks. Let me look at my notes here. They bought an extra 1.56 million stocks of Palantir yesterday. That's now 0.5% of ARK's holding. They now hold 4 million shares. So they bought the dips there on PLTR, as did I today. Probably not quite as cheaply as they did, but I did. I'm rather happy with that for long-term holding. As always, guys, I don't recommend anything to you. I'm just entertaining here. This is not financial advice. Pfizer, I don't understand why. Kevin here, maybe they can limit the short selling to a certain percentage max. Yeah, I think there are thoughts to this. I think the trouble is when regulators step in, they tend to make things worse. They might start limiting shorts for retail investors or for non-professional investors. I think that's a sort of nonsense we might see. So unless you are a certified professional investor, which generally means in most jurisdictions you need to prove you have about $1 million in liquid assets. So real estate and things like that don't count. You have to have about $1 million in shares. a lot of investments are only available to professional investors. And I sort of fear that's perhaps where the Biden administration might go and say, we're protecting the small man on the street, the small investor. They don't understand, therefore we are stopping them from shorting things because the risks are too great. While guys like these I was going to say Wolf of Wall Street, but you know what I mean. These wolves are shorting companies are allowed to continue doing what they're doing. It was suspended, I think, in the 2008, 2009, when Lehman collapsed. I think Obama suspended shorts for a little while. And that was sort of a panic button that they pushed, which I'm not sure particularly helped, but people can still sell off. But I think that was the only time I can think when this was actually suspended. Lokanath there, where have you been? You've got a subscriber. Thanks very much. I'm glad you found our community. What's the word on EHANG's profile? Okay, we do a quick roundup here. Robert's laughing. Kevin says true. J. Young Park says Neo's down 4%. Cash out EHANG and buy more Neo. Well, the problem is with that is that Tesla is down and that Tesla drags Neo down. Tesla is to me the one stock ETF. They basically represent the market. When they wobble, the market wobbles. You're probably seeing the same thing with Xpeng and everybody else. Everybody will be down. Let's do a very quick roundup here, guys. So we have the report out, the rebuttal out from EHANG, and I'm going to post that link here in the chat again, guys. Anyone who's joined late, I'm not going to read the whole thing out again, but you can certainly read it in your own time. Basically rebutting pretty much everything. They're saying, they making products. We are doing research. We just don't have to spend $5 billion. We don't have to waste money to do it. They're saying that we are the leaders in AAV. We have actually had AA autonomous, AVs flying since 2016. We've got 343 patents filed. And Robert, who's here on our chat, looked it up on the US Patent Office, and they had 2 filed there. But he also clarified that patents filed within the last 18 months wouldn't show up. So there might well be 341 more filed in the US, and they just haven't seen them yet. Or they might be filed in different jurisdictions, like in China. They've spent $37 million on R&D. He says money isn't everything. Basically, cash burn rate is not an indicator of success. They also refute that they are buying T-Motor motors for the EH216. They're not buying hobby-grade motors. They're saying we have our proprietarily designed and manufactured motors by a designated supplier. So they're saying we don't make them, but we have somebody who makes them. And he says the T-Motor motors are significantly different from ours. And then they talk about 10,000 trial flights they have done, and they have CA, that's the Chinese Aviation Authority's airworthiness certificate on our EH216. Our product is best in class. And they also refute that this alleged customers of theirs, Kung Xiang, who apparently manufactured allegedly these contracts, he said they've never been a shareholder of EHANG, and therefore that incentive for them to manufacture, fabricate these contracts is kind of gone pre-IPO, so that doesn't hold up. And then we have seen that, well, and then also this trial, they're saying, Wolf is saying here that all the equity is essentially under lockdown by court order. They're saying that's nonsense. That is a group of pre-IPO shareholders who are in arbitration, and that's between them. That's got nothing to do with EHANG itself. And then they're saying, they put out this video here, which I'm going to replay. It's lovely. YouTube suggests my videos and wants to keep playing them. And you can see that there's this chap walking around, and the allegations that he didn't see anybody, that there was nobody there were no employees working, it very much looks like a nonsense. And he also went at lunchtime. We can see that from the hour. And if you go into any office in China at lunchtime, there's usually somebody sleeping at the front desk, or they have gone out for lunch. And that's precisely what we see here. There's also a security guard there. There's a coach in the background with the door open, and you're going to see that coach load of people in just a second at the end of that. So, could you drink EHANG Kool-Aid and have a relationship with the stock? For me, it's about to make money. Not a fan. Okay, look, I'm not pumping the stock. I'm not saying you should buy the stock. I never tell anybody to buy anything at all, guys. I'm just putting out the other side of the story to the story that the Wolf guys have put forward. I think there are two views to it, and I hope you guys read and watch both. There's also a video out that those guys made, and I always encourage people, guys, go to primary sources and make up your own opinion. Don't just follow headlines. Kevin here has a Singaporean company. He wants me to check out C Limited. Okay, I'll have a look at that. SE.SG. Thank you very much. Wall Street's not as appreciative as Chinese stocks, says Seabiscuit here. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit also why they picked on it, because it is a little bit easier to create the impression that they have created, and it might also take them a little bit longer. There is a time zone difference, and it's also Chinese New Year here. So I think there are various reasons to pick up that. They've picked on a couple of Chinese stocks in the past. Their track record isn't very good, though. When they are picking on, here you see that tour group walking in there. When they have picked on stocks, 5 out of 7 at least have then outperformed where they started to short them. So that's an interesting one. Kylie, Pure Entertainment, indeed. Look at that lovely chart. Ehang, okay, to the moon, the low-hanging fruit, guys. Well, everybody sees these things. Some people see it as a buying opportunity, some do not. The positive news is here that I think there continues to be a recovery. It is sort of going up and down a little bit, but it is, generally speaking, a positive story, guys, here. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Robert here has posted very kindly a link here. I'm glad you can post a link because that was restricted in the past. Let me open that up and we can all see it. Here's the patent search. So they have two patents here filed, multi-rotor passenger carrying arc aircraft and one with foldable arms. We're going to open them both up. Can't be reached. Okay, is that because I clicked? Okay, that's the US Patent Office. They need a new IT contract, I think. I can't open them up. But anyway, thank you very much for sharing that, Robert. I appreciate that. Maybe that'll work again in a little while. I'll have another look at that. Appreciate you sharing that. Guys, I'm going to wrap this up here. I think it's interesting to see the second story here. Robert is giving us another link, so I'm going to also open that up. Let's see if that one has links that we can open. Okay, here are more of them. That's 2, 4, that's 9 of them. It counts for me, which is good. So there are 9 patents here. Thank you very much, Robert. That is very, very kind of you for sharing that with us. So guys, you can see that link too, I believe, and you can also check that out. And here you can see where they are and when they filed them. And you can see the details and a description of it, rather lengthy. I'm not going to go through that now, but I'll certainly study that, Robert. It's very, very interesting. And it might be worth doing a bit of a coverage on that as well. Maybe we can do something together on that, Robert. Ash, yes, I am German indeed. Thanks for asking. That site does not look legit. That is the US Patent Office. It is the .gov ending. And Robert, I understand, has a legal background. So he I think, has given us the correct link here. It is just sometimes all sorts of things don't work, right? I mean, sometimes things don't work on enormous websites, and that is just the way it works. But here we can see them, guys. So do check that out. D means the design patent. Make sure Robert is not trying to grab your IP. Great job today. Just subscribe. Glad I found you. Thank you very much, Seeking Love. Much appreciated. Everybody who hit that subscribe button, guys. I'm going to wrap up here because it is 2 in the morning in Hong Kong, and I need to get up in the morning and look at what's happening during the opening hours. Appreciate all your kind comments. Appreciate you joining our lives. Thanks very much, and see you very soon.